Uh, Aaron, you good?
My lighting isn't the greatest, but I don't have my ring light. I left it in Texas, so I guess we'll rock with this.
Okay. No, it's all good. It's all good. All right. So we'll wait another 30 seconds or so. I see people starting to pop in. Eighth Life, what's going on, man? I see you. Appreciate you popping in as always, one of our regulars. We're gonna wait another 30 seconds or maybe a minute before we get this going. I want to make sure people are in here hearing what this man has to say because I think Benoni, you're a little younger than me. I'm pretty sure, maybe a lot
Yeah,
younger than me.
34.
Yes, a lot younger than me. Was it Jabari that first connected us?
Yeah, most likely Jabari's like the master connector for everybody. But then there's
Okay.
also the Vegas connection too. But I'm sure
Yes.
Jabari officially.
Okay, dope. Yeah, now I remember. But this was a long time ago. This was probably like it was like 2012, 2013, something like that.
Hmm.
Um, all right, so I see more people popping in. Remedy Born, what's up? G Life Beats, what's going on? Brandon Streeter, I see you on Facebook. No matter where you're tuning in from, type in the chat. Let us know where you are, who you are. We'll get started in just a second. This is going to be a very dope session. As you see, we have our new partner in crime, Erin, joining us. She wanted to crash this session because she knew it was going to be dope. I'll introduce our guest in a second. Producer Saint, what up? Tiger Backwood BeatStars, what's up? Type in the chat. Let me know. Let me know. Let's see. He said he's stoked for this episode. Yeah, it's gonna be dope. It's gonna be dope. No pressure, Benoni. No pressure.
We're
Produced
gonna
by
rock out.
JMT. Pradeep Twig Edward. What's going on? Vaughn Lion official. What's up? Yes, phrase 690. I see you. Type your cities. I never know where you guys are from unless it's in your username. Yard Beats on YouTube. What's going on? Ryan Chum Cuevas. All right, Cloud9, as always, another regular. What's up, Cloud9? All right,
Chat
we're
going
gonna get
off right
started.
now.
The people that are late can just watch the rerun. This is a really dope set. It's gonna be a very dope session. I've known Benoni for over pretty much a decade now, and seeing kind of where he has been, where he is now. Super proud of everything that he's doing, and I just enjoy just kind of watching from afar. So Benoni is the president of Raedio, which is not just a record label. I know that I'm doing it a disservice. We'll talk about that. But welcome to the show, man. Appreciate you joining.
Yeah, no, thank you for the not record label shout out because I definitely like to comment on that. So I appreciate it.
Head of the game. I'm trying to stay ahead. Now I'm super familiar. But before we jump into that, we always like to, go back and just kind of explore our guest journey into music, through music, into kind of where you are now. We don't need to make every single stop because I know you've done quite a bit up until this point. But can you just talk about where you've been, and how you started off in music in the first place?
Yeah, I mean, I was just like everybody else, just running around. I'm from Vegas and running around managing artists. And eventually I just moved to LA, started at a school called Musicians Institute. I was in school in Hollywood, studied the music business there. And then from there, started interning. My first internship was with the Jonas Brothers. And they kind of just built my career every step of the way from there.
How'd you get an internship with the Jonas Brothers? What was that connect?
And one of my teachers, he was connected to them, and I just tried to be an A student. Sat at the front of the class, answered every question, turned in my homework super early. And he was like, they're looking for an intern. Would you be interested in doing this? So I just made it happen.
Dope, dope. It's a common theme thread of just basically over delivering at every point to try to build relationships and get opportunities. So we go from interning with the Jonas Brothers to
To eventually being their assistant.
okay.
So I was interning for a little bit, and I was first one at the office every day, last one to leave. I was doing everything I could just to be seen. I'd be in the kitchen, fixing the drinks, making sure the drinks were aligned properly in the refrigerator, making sure the snacks were refilled, making sure I took out the trash. Anything that I could do to be seen, that's constantly what I was doing. And it came down to a point where they came to me and they said, "Hey, you're doing a great job here. For the next month of your internship, we want to pay you." And it was like $10 an hour. But they were like, Don't tell the other interns because we're not paying them, but we're going to pay you. So that was great because I was struggling, I was struggling to get to the internship, struggling to put gas in the car, sleeping on a friend's couch, the stereotypical LA entertainment story. And eventually I did the internship and they said, we don't have the budget to hire you full time. But we're going to help you find a job. So the first job that they helped me get was at a company called AEG, which is a concert promoter. So for those of you that are familiar with like Live Nation, AEG is like their equivalent. So I started working at AEG and I was doing VIP concert packaging. My first tour that I worked on was Justin Bieber's first major tour. I did Black Eyed Peas, I did Ricardo Arjona, I did Pitbull, um, bunch of acts. And my job was basically to create the VIP experience. So when you buy a VIP ticket, whether that be a meet and greet, whether that be a sound check, whether that be a party of some sort with the artist, I was the person that was organizing that. So I did that for a little bit. And then one day I just got a random call on my lunch break at AEG. And it was one of the Jonas Brothers managers and they were like, "Hey, we're about to go on tour." This is like a Wednesday. They were like, "Hey, we're about to go on tour. Tour starts on Saturday. We need an assistant." Um, and I was like, "Let's do it." It was a lot of money. It was a great opportunity. It was an international tour. Didn't have my passport, so always have your passport. Always stay ready. So the first leg of the tour was domestic, was just in the United States, and then the second leg of the tour was international. So I went back to work, finished out my work day. And then I went home, seriously thought about it. And to be honest, I don't really know what I was thinking about. I should have just said yes. That Thursday, I went back to work, told my manager at the time, like, "Hey, I got this great opportunity. I got to go." Next thing I know, I'm on a plane and I'm the Jonas Brothers assistant. Meanwhile, filing for a passport, doing like the emergency passport situation. So rocked out with them for that first month, got my passport in the mail, and then I did the overseas part of the tour. And a lot of times people ask you like, what does a Jonas Brothers assistant do? And what I tell people is like, whatever you do on a daily basis that you don't want to do, that you can have somebody else do, that's
Mm.
what I did. So walking the dogs, making sure their clothes are in the dry cleaners, making sure they sign contracts, making sure they have breakfast, ordering their food, just doing all the things that you probably don't even want to do for yourself, but they pay
Right.
me to do it.
Right.
So that was essentially the job, and I did that for a couple years, and then worked my way up. I was on their day-to-day management team, and in between that time, I met Issa Rae, and I was just helping her with just business stuff because I've always been an entrepreneur, businessman more than any specific field. I'm just, business is my sport, is the way I like to say it. So I just helped Issa. She was working on her web series at the time, and then eventually we kind of just grew, and we decided to start Raedio way down the line.
Right. So it's just a common thread, just over deliver. That's gonna be the theme of the year, babes. Basically, over deliver. Might have to get a sweatshirt with an over deliver just
Mhm.
across it. I'm
Send
not
me
used.
one.
Yeah, I'm seriously probably gonna do that. I'm always that's like the number one thing I'm always telling artists or anybody really. I'm not used to having a co-pilot, Aaron. So jump in whenever you get it. Whenever you have a question, I'm gonna be super selfish because I'm just not used to interviewing folks with anybody else. Um, damn, what was I about to say? I just lost my train of thought with my over deliver. Okay, so you met Issa while she was just doing the awkward black girls sketches on
Yeah,
YouTube.
exactly. Yeah. So
Okay.
it was the early days of Awkward Black Girl, and I let her rock out with the creativity, but for me, I kind of tried to bring just a business structure and just thinking about, okay, we have the product, which is the show, and that's doing well, but what can we build around it? Can we do merch? How do we, what does our social media presence look like? What other types of specific partnerships can we get? So those are all the things that I was always thinking about. And that's still what I do for her to this day. There's a lot of you letting her focus on the content. She has very big, ambitious goals of what she wants to do in business. So I try to help and facilitate with that. And a lot of the things that I experimented with Awkward Black Girl on a smaller level, when I started doing radio, I was able to fully do it. And then even my other careers, like I've done taxes. I used to work for H&R Block. I used to work for Century 21. I was selling houses. So everything that I did back then, it all culminated to being able to push that for radio. Like even when you said just now, you were like, "Oh, I like to test something." I didn't even hear you didn't even say the full thing, but my mind was already going about testing and iterating and
Mhm.
pivoting. And that's something that a lot of times in the music industry, people don't use those words, number one. Number
Right.
two, people don't make that as a part of their strategy. And I know you, and coming from your background, I know why you would use words like that. And I think that the music industry just needs more of that. I know how you feel about your boy Kanye, but what he's doing is essentially testing, seeing what's hitting, and then going back to the drawing board, and then putting something else out, and then going back to the drawing board until it's fine tuned and it's perfect. And then that's what's created the superstar that he is.
I won't go down the. I'm not even gonna go down the Kanye path. I'm
For
gonna leave. I'm gonna
sure.
leave that alone. That's valid for sure. All
Yeah.
right. So you get the opportunity to start this audio content company. That's how you describe it, right? You want to talk about that really
Yeah,
quick
for sure.
in terms of how it's structured, and I think there's 5 different divisions, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, you're well researched. I love it.
Okay.
Yeah, so we call Radio Audio Everywhere Company because we want to exist everywhere audio exists. So if you think about just the world we're surrounded by audio, right? And a lot of times we take that for granted, but when you get in the elevator, there's music playing. When you watch TV, there's music playing. You go on Spotify, you can listen to a podcast. So for us, we wanted to provide audio just across the board. Music is obviously the easiest low hanging fruit, but audio is more than just music. So with radio, we have a record label, we have publishing, we have events, we have brand partnerships, and then we have a library. And all of those, it's 5 verticals, but all of those seemingly tie into each other. For music supervision, we do shows like Power, Godfather of Harlem, Just Like That, which is the new Sex and the City reboot. We have Bel Air, which is the new Fresh Prince of Bel Air reboot. Love and Hip Hop. I don't know if I said that already. We've done campaigns for Google. We did a Naomi Osaka Nike commercial. All of these instances is where they needed music. So whether it be from an artist from our label that we provide music from, or whether it be a library where we go and work with producers and we say, hey, we need an instrumental that sounds like this. We'll take that instrumental and we'll supply it to a Google or to a Nike so that it could play in the background. The artist or the composer gets paid, Google and Nike are happy, and we kind of just build from there. So that's essentially how we structured the business.
And with these different verticals, you have partnerships, right? So like
Yeah,
on the label side, you're with Atlantic, right?
yeah, we're
Go
yeah.
ahead.
Breaking news: we're actually in between labels right now. So
Okay. Okay.
um, yeah,
You
we're
listen to NBA YoungBoy because NBA YoungBoy said don't sign to Atlantic. So as soon as he posted, yeah.
well, Atlantic, they've been great partners. I mean, we signed with them what late 2018, started the business in 2019, and they essentially took a chance on us. And there was a lot of learning. There was learning from the Atlantic side, there was learning from the radio side, and ultimately, as you build your business, you find out what you want and what you don't want, and then you make decisions from there. So love Atlantic for the role that they played in radio, and we're excited about the next step. In terms of strategic partnerships, we have a program right now that will be really interested to all of you. We have a program with Google
Mm,
where we're basically looking for new artists and new composers. And for the artist side of things, we're going to fund your next EP where you get to keep full ownership of it. We're going to put you through an incubator program where we're going to introduce you to people. You're going to get to meet the radio team, and then we're going to help you distribute and market that project. Once again, free money, give you the money for the project, you own everything, and then radio just supports you on that.
I-
And then on the, oh, go ahead, Dane.
no, I should have had the link ready, but what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put the link in the comment section so people have it because that was one of the things that we were going to talk about was the radio creators program, correct?
Yes, sir. So it's theradio.com/radio creators program, and that's radio RAEDIO. So on the artist side, we're going to fund and help you put out your project. And then on the composer side, we're going to be working with composers and producers to help them create their own collection that we can then start pitching to film and TV. Once again, through whether you're on the artist track or whether you're on the composer track, you get to own everything. Raedio is essentially funding it, and we're just bringing you into our ecosystem. So the same thing that we do for the artists that are actually signed to us or the producers that are signed to us, we're going to do for you as part of this initiative with Google. So I encourage everybody to sign up. It ends. Submissions are open now, and the submissions end March 1st. So now's the time to get on it.
Definitely check out that link. I put it in the comment section. Don't sleep on these opportunities. Go ahead, Aaron. I'm sorry.
My bad, Dame. So I wanted to ask about, so I know you're saying you're in between labels right now. My question is, or maybe this is the direction that you're going, but what made you guys sign with a traditional label versus going with a distributor that could give you, I guess, the same funding? Was it that you guys were a newer company and you wanted the affiliation, or tell me your thought process behind that? I'm an independent label owner too. All of my artists own their masters because we don't want to own their intellectual property. And so we partnered with a distributor so that we can essentially give them the same benefits of a label without having to mess with the masters and things like that.
Yeah, no, that's a good question. It broke up a little bit for me. I don't know if it broke up for everyone else.
The connection's a little shaky, but I think you got the question. I was able, I think, to gather most of the question.
Yeah, the gist of the question was, what was the reasoning behind signing with a major label as opposed to signing with a distribution company? There's a lot of reasons why. Well, first of all, backtrack. You got to understand the game that you're playing. You got to understand the game that you're playing, and everybody's game is different. For me and where I'm trying to go, major label was the route to go. One, the finances are different, front end and back end. The front end finances are way more significant. The back end finances can be a lot less when you go a record label route. But we needed that jump start, and we needed the infrastructure that a label provides. We needed to be able to bring artists to them and say, hey, for instance, for Atlantic, they have Cardi B, Ed Sheeran, Bruno Mars, Meek Mill, Roddy Ricch, etc. We needed to go to a place that knew what they were doing in that space, and for us to be able to come in and insert our sauce and ultimately help that talent grow. So that was the reason behind it. I do have thoughts and visions about one day being fully independent, and I'm working on that as we speak. But now is not the time for that for me and for the company. Distribution is great because now the front end economics on the distribution side are a lot less, but the back end is a lot more with success, right? Because you own everything, and if that thing is a hit, then there's less people that you have to pay out. And so you got to play your game, and you got to say, okay, do I want to go with the front end or the back end? You got to weigh all these factors. The other thing with distribution is 9 times out of 10, there's no infrastructure that's provided to you. So when it comes to running your business, it's pretty much all on you. So if you go sign an artist, all the responsibilities of signing that artist rely on you, where you don't have, an A&R admin, you don't have a legal department, you don't have a sync department, you don't have a publicity department, etc. And so you really got to figure out, okay, what are all the components that I need? And that's how you could decide. I think that label services is seriously lacking in the music business. There's a lot of companies that are offering label services, but what are they really doing? That's a conversation for another day. I actually have visions. I woke up this morning and I started breaking down what a real label services company could be. So you guys might see that, next year, next coming years. I started writing down. So we'll see when I get the time to do it. But that's my long-winded way of saying you got to play your game. You got to figure out what works for you.
And I think it makes sense too, just kind of Issa really, I mean, she's still on, but she's really having a moment, to capitalize on that extremely quickly. I mean, it lends to what you said, just having the resources to just go. And she's not an artist that gets signed. I think Issa comes to the table with a lot of leverage, a lot of interest, a lot of different things happening. So I think it makes a lot of sense. And then on the publishing side, you guys partner with Cobalt.
Yeah, we did partner with Cobalt, still with them. So no breaking news there. But to your point, Aaron, like on the master side, right? The major label side or distribution. On the publishing side, we sign with Cobalt for the same reason why you sign your distribution deal. We sign with Cobalt because they're an admin company. So anything that we bring to them, we own it 100%. They just take a fee, and then we go out and we can sign talent to that deal. That was important to us because one, publishing is where all the money's at, and admin companies and companies that exist like Cobalt are a little bit, I think, a little bit more mature than like label services companies, in my opinion. So it's easy for us to be able to sign to an admin company like Cobalt, still get all the infrastructure and things that we need behind the scenes, but be able to run our business and own everything. So Cobalt has been great partners. We're planning on really ramping up our publishing signings this year. So looking for songwriters, looking for producers, the whole nine. But to kind of go back and talk about our business as a whole, we work with a lot of music, right? We work with a lot of we have a lot of sync opportunities because we have a lot of shows that we're working on. And so having a publishing company just kind of helps because now we're able to say, okay, we can help you on the label side, but we can also help you on the publishing side. And then we have this TV show, or we have this brand, or we have these strategic partnerships. All of those outlets need music, need audio. So we're just able to attack it from just multiple different angles.
How many people work at Raedio now? I mean, you're working on so many different things or so many different projects. What does your staff look like?
Right now, we're 13 people. So it's 13 people. That's people that spread out across music supervision, library, the label, and publishing. Events, etc. But a bulk of that is on the music supervision side and on the label side.
Where does podcasting sit? Is that with you guys or is that with somewhere else?
Yeah, so we just signed a deal with Audible. So that sits with us. That's under me. We just hired an amazing person from Spotify who's come in. Her name is Jifa. She's come in and just really orchestrated how we should be moving. So a lot of our podcast projects are going to come out closer to the end of this year. But yeah, that sits under Raedio.
Yeah, because I know that's huge. Everybody's looking to beef up their. I mean, actually, we're about to start we have an MEC podcast, but Big Jaw's starting a podcast pretty soon, possibly two. But there's and as we're having these conversations, like all these different platforms are trying to beef up, like their podcasting division is going crazy. Aaron, did you have some other questions for? But I know you got to leave relatively soon. I'm not sure what time. I can't remember what time you said, but I know you're.
I got to leave at 1, so I'm good to finish out the session at least.
Oh, okay.
Part. Yeah, the next question, thank you, Dan. I appreciate you. So my question is, when you're looking for talent, because this is what everybody is going to want to know, how are you finding talent? Is it just in your network? Is it strategic connections to maybe somebody I owe a manager a favor, I'm looking to get this, you know what I'm saying? Or is it just personal preference? Is it library based where your team is searching through libraries? I know that you guys are big on the indies and giving a light and a leg up to, some of my favorite people, like Cautious Clay is somebody that I've seen you guys do a lot of things with. And so I love the Xavier Omar. He's a friend of mine. I know y'all have worked with him extensively. So where are you guys sourcing your artists from? Is it the camps, things like that? I just kind of want to know what your process is when it comes to that.
Yeah, I mean, it's actually all of the above. It's referrals. Like the first artist we signed, Timar, I've known her manager for years. So he was like, I'm working with this artist, and the artist was talented, and we signed her. So it's all of the above. It's referrals. It's being on the internet. It's paying attention to the streets and what they're saying. It's also data and analytics, and some people don't like to hear that, but some of it. We use a company called Chartmetric, and you start seeing things trending and poking their head out. So that's always cool. Endify is another great platform where it actually pairs artists with funding. So y'all should be on that. That's INDIFY.
We had Connor on last year, I believe. So I'm a fan of Endify as well, for sure.
Yeah, Connor's a good guy, and they're really tapped into data and analytics. So it's all of that. In terms of what makes us decide that we're going to sign someone, first of all, it's talent, right? You got to hear it and be like, okay, I see what this can be. Hearing it and then seeing it and saying, I see where this can be. But then the second thing, and probably 1A, is honestly their team, you know. And I'll say team, but I'll also interchange that with their mindset, right? Because number one, they have the talent, so that attracts you to them. But what is their mindset? What do they want to be? I've had some artists that come to me and say, I want to be the biggest artist out. Cool. So in my mind, I kind of know what that strategy is. And first of all, if you want to be the biggest artist out, that's a major label strategy. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. Like, I'd be happy to debate with anybody that says otherwise, but you don't get a Drake, you don't get a Beyonce without a major label. If their strategy is, you know, I just want to have a sustainable career, I just want to be relevant and I want to, like, be able to pop out here and there, cool. Then, that could be a major label route, but that could also be a distribution route. So knowing what they want and seeing how you could best accommodate is important. And then how are they willing to get up and work for it? Are they willing to make the sacrifices that it's going to take to become that thing? Because this entertainment stuff is for play, right? Like, at the end of the day, it's like, you could do it, but then you could easily not do it, right? And at the end of the day, we're not curing cancer. So you got to really want it, because a lot of doors are going to be slammed in your face. A lot of people are not going to believe in you. You're probably going to get offered some shitty deals. So how bad do you want it? And then the other part too is their team. Who's guiding them? And if they don't have anybody guiding them, then cool. Can I come in and can I help put somebody in place to help guide you? Also, are you going to listen to the advice that I have to give you? That's very important, because you'll sign talent sometimes, and you'll deal with their team and you're like, yo, they're working against me. And so making sure that artist has a legit team in place is crucially important. And don't bypass the homie. A lot of times you might have a homie who, sometimes homies get a bad rap, right? Like, oh, I grew up with him, he's smart in business, so I want him to be my manager. Okay, cool. Those situations are 50-50. I've seen it work great and I've seen it not work not so great, right? So, you really got to vet out who you have. And if you have a homie that it wants to get into business, just make sure that they're doing their due diligence. I always tell people, you got to strengthen those muscles while nobody's looking. So if you got a homie who's new, but you trust him and you want him to be on your team, cool. Make sure his head is in the books. Make sure he's out networking, having the right conversations. Make sure that he understands the difference between this and this. All of those things can be learned. So essentially, that's what I would say we look for.
That's crucial. I probably said that a billion times on this platform, like, because I definitely am not gonna. And matter of fact, I tweeted it a few days ago. Like, I'm not gonna. I understand. Like, my friends or my family. Like, I want to put them on. I understand you wanting to put your friends on, and I would encourage it, as long as they're dedicated to eventually being the best person for that role. They may not be the best person like at this moment, but if they have the passion, the enthusiasm to figuring shit out, because like you said, we're not curing cancer, it's not rocket science. All of this stuff can be learned, but they have to be dedicated to eventually being the best person for that role in a relatively short amount of time. They got to scale up quick, especially if you got some momentum and things are moving. So
that's another word, Dave. Scale up. Another word that needs to be inserted into the music industry. But even, to that point about, making sure that they're dedicated, you also got to be egoless. Like, the big part, like, one of my secret powers is I'm egoless. I don't know everything, but I do know a lot about some things, right? And especially when it comes to my business, like, there's nobody's going to be able to tell me about my business. Why? Because I slept with this, I ate with this, I dreamed this, the whole nine. And when nobody's watching me, I'm constantly trying to figure out a way to be better. But be egoless in the sense of, if you have a homie manager, and you guys go and find a quote unquote bigger manager that has credibility and things like that, maybe the homie goes and works under that bigger manager. And you got to be okay with that and learn the game. I look at LeBron, and everybody on LeBron's team went and worked under somebody. You had one homie that went to work at CAA and learned under one of the biggest agents, and that big person became Rich Paul. You got one person that went to go work at Nike as an intern. That person became Maverick Carter. So just be willing to be a student and, just check the ego at the door.
Yeah, nah, super gems. Now, the fact that you were over delivering very young and it created opportunities for you. Now that you're on this side of the table and there's young people that want to work for you, how difficult is it to find a young Benoni? Has it been easy or has it been hard to find young people that have, the similar dedication and passion that you had, 10 years ago?
Um, yeah, it's been difficult. Just in terms of there's a lot of people that are smart and there's a lot of people that do a lot of things, but not everybody's going to approach things in the same way that I approach them. And that's okay. And you have to create space for people to bring whatever it is that they bring to the table. But every now and then I come across somebody like we have an artist named Incognita, developing act. We're just working behind the scenes on her, but she has a manager. His name is Kobe, and every time I talk to him, I'm like, yo, this kid, he's a college kid. I'm like, yo, he's gonna figure it out. Like the conversations, the way that he approaches things, his structure, his organization. I'm like, give him a couple years, he's gonna figure it out. So, I know the game that I'm playing, and I aim to be the best at my game, and I don't. Nobody's getting in my lane is how I'm approaching it. But there's somebody else that's going to come along and they're going to play their game and they're going to be best at their game. So, that's kind of the gist behind it.
Isn't it? It kind of makes me feel old, but it's dope that I'm able to like look at some young people that are around me and just know that they're gonna win, just
Hmm.
because of my experience and because just some of the qualities that you see in them. Certain, it's just like I guess I being able to identify an artist that you think is going to win. But I
Yeah.
love to see it, and I try to invest my energy into the young people that I think deserve it. How many artists do you have signed to the label right now?
Well, one thing before I answer that, I mean, everything you're saying is correct. Like, I remember the first time I got to sit down with you, like, I felt like I was sitting down with a celebrity. Like, you were definitely somebody that I look up to. Even like when I got the invite for this, I had to take a moment and be like, wow, that's cool that Dane
I
looks at
appreciate it.
me as a peer and looks at me
Sure.
as somebody that could provide value to his platform because I looked up to you and everything that you did with Funk Volume, like, lots of respect for it. And you signed a label services deal with Warner. I remember us having those conversations.
Hmm.
Um, but as far as the artists that we have three artists right now. Timar, who's out of Boston, just an amazing, dope lyrical songwriter, just incredible talent. We have Josh Levi. He wants to be the biggest artist of the decade. Is his goal, and so we're working on that. But he makes sure he proclaims that every time we have a call. So that's what we're working towards. And then we have Incognita, who is out of South Central and just incredibly dope songwriter. She's a rapper. And Incognita is kind of like the proof of like what the ecosystem of radio is about. And so, like for her, we have a new show on HBO called Rap Shit, that's loosely based off of the City Girl's life. And we did a writing camp, and for the show, the characters have to like they're rappers, so they have to perform like original songs, right? And so we brought Nita in for a writing camp, and Nita was writing the verses for the on-screen like show for the on-screen talent, and she killed it. Like Nita raps like she's your like more conscious, like lyrical rapper, but she was able to tap into like her City Girls Meg the Stallion bag, right? Like she did some songs where she was rapping and I didn't even know it was her because it sounded so different. So that versatility was key.
Mm.
But anyways, we were able to get her to record or to write songs for the talent. Then we had another writing camp where she was able to do her own music, so we were able to put those songs into the show. And then we were able to get her a cameo appearance in the show. So for this one show, we were able to have her write for other people. We were able to have her write for herself. And then we were able to have her be on screen. And so that's kind of the ecosystem that we're building where everything kind of just flows into each other.
Yeah, that's super dope. Obviously, you have a crazy competitive advantage having access to those different platforms. How do you guys strategize? Like, is there a weekly meeting with people on the TV film side of like what's coming up, what they need, things like that? Is that structure in place, or is it just kind of like as a project comes, then you maybe have conversations?
Yeah, it's all of the above. I mean, we have weekly meetings with all of our artists and find out what they're working on, and music is always submitted. And then we have a music supervision team who says this is what we're looking for. Um, and they're constantly submitting things. So, we work on so many projects in house, and then we've made a name for ourselves where people come to us and when they're looking for music. So it's all the above. It's when you are building something, you got to constantly repeat what you're building, almost to the point that you get sick of hearing it yourself. But like in this conversation alone, I'm like, oh, the things that we say are working. Like we never call ourselves a label. That's like a bad word, right? And I make sure every chance I get, when someone puts a microphone in front of me, I tell people, yeah, we're not a label or an audio everywhere company. First of all, when I say we're an audio everywhere company, that actually kind of doesn't mean anything until I actually put the action behind it. Then you're like, oh, I understand what he means by audio everywhere. And just that repeating and constantly communicating what your voice, what your vision is, what your message is, eventually it sticks to third parties and then people come to you. Our Google deal, or not our Google deal, our Audible deal, the person hit me up, the executive hit me up on LinkedIn, and she's like, yeah, I want to talk to you about some projects we're working on. We get on the phone and she's like, I have this one project and I want Raedio to produce it because literally your tagline is audio everywhere. So if there's any company that can do it, you guys can do it. And this is a big deal. Like, so my tagline got me X amount of dollars just because I had the right tagline. So when you think about marketing and branding and constantly repeating the vision, you got to just be just intentional about everything every step of the way.
For sure. And that was it. That kind of bleeds into the next question. And just so for the label, like in terms of, because part of that branding is in the artists that you sign and the artists that represent the label. I'm trying to stop saying, but you have a label within the audio.
Well, we have part of our company as a label. Yes.
So how are you thinking about the branding of the label and the artists that you want to represent that label?
Yeah, this is an interesting thing that we're figuring out in real time. So, for the label side of our business, my thing is this: we all grew up with like cultural JVs, right? Cultural joint ventures, like your Rockefellers, your Bad Boys, your Rough Riders, your Murder Incs., right? And me being a business person, I'm like, okay, I see what they did and I saw the impact that they had. My thing was always, okay, I want to be able to last forever though, right? Like McDonald's has lasted forever, Mercedes-Benz has lasted forever, Target, Walmart, etc., right? And I'm like, how can I last forever? Because all of the culture brands, they only last for a period of time and then they go away for some reason. And so as we started to build out the label, I was like, okay, I want to be like Atlantic. Like right now we're taking money from Atlantic. Other joint ventures will take money from Interscope, from Def Jam, etc. And I'm like, Atlantic can go and sign a Ed Sheeran, but then in the same breath, they can go sign a Cardi B. I'm like, they can do whatever they want and they got all the money. And I'm like, for me, why can't I do the same? And so when we initially started looking at artists, we were like, if it's dope, we'll sign it. We don't care if it's left, if it's right, if it's up or it's down, we'll sign it. But what I'm finding is that you do have to have a sound that people gravitate to, and you have to give something specific to hang on to. And so now we're really being intentional about the sound that we want to curate, so that when people say, oh, that's a Raedio artist, you already know what that sounds like before you press play on that artist.
Right.
And so in the interim, we are working on that very specific sound. We haven't nailed it yet, but it's in the process. But eventually, I do want to figure out how to crack the code where I could become Interscope, where I could become Atlantic, etc., not the tier below, which is where we currently sit.
Well, I would almost say like the other brands that you mentioned that aren't here anymore, a lot of that has to do with the same things with Funk Boy, like just internal issues, right? Like, keeping the internal issues to a minimum. And I think you'll be around for a long time. But I do think that you need to establish a sound that represents radio, and it can be a sound that can still house a diverse group of artists. But I think when you have that sound, it grows the brand, and it gives new artists a bigger platform to get a chance to get exposure to fans, because you're going to have fans of radio now, right? You're going to have fans of that sound. So now when you have a new artist, they get something that's worth way more than money, right? Which is an installed fan base.
Absolutely.
And that's what
TDE.
Yeah, and that's what the Atlantic can't give you. That's what Interscope can't give you. That you guys, I mean, I think when I look at your business, it has so many competitive advantages. It's crazy. And it has, you at the helm thinking about all the different things. So, again, just excited to see how the next 5, 10, 20, 30 years plays out. Um, Aaron, I normally open it up for questions around this time from the audience, but did you have any more before I do that?
I have one more question, more on a personal tip. Um, I'm a serial entrepreneur in the music industry, which is what you are. I just want to ask a question about balance and how do you choose your focal point each quarter or each month, where you're spending your energy. I realized really quickly last year that even with so many flourishing projects, I was dying literally, like I just could not handle it anymore. And so now I'm choosing to focus on things, and what I focus on I see win, but then I'm just nervous about what I'm letting go. So how do you choose your focal points? How do you balance? What does that look like? I'm sure it's a constant juggle, but I would love to hear what that's about.
Yeah, it's definitely a juggle. I'm still figuring a lot of that out, but it's been really cool because I've been able to hire a lot of people. So we just hired someone to run our label and our publishing, which traditionally that was me. We just hired someone to run our podcast division. So traditionally that was me. So it's cool when you start to, from a business perspective, be able to build out a team and be able to delegate. Okay, you run with this, you run with that. And that gives me the space to be able to open up and to take a step back and to think. A lot of what radio is doing are years old ideas of mine. And it's cool that the world is accepting of them, but a lot of it is not new yet because it's like I had ideas back then, and then we just spent a lot of time executing those ideas. So now I'm excited for this next chapter, and I have the right people in place so that I can be able to focus on what's next. So when it comes to priority, sometimes you have to think like, a lot of times I try to break it up into categories, and not one category is above the other, but one is this thing that I'm doing going to create more exposure and increase the reach of the brand. So that's one thing. And then two, is this a money play? Sometimes it's both. But sometimes it's like we do something. It's like, oh, this is a money play to keep the lights on, and it doesn't hurt the brand, so we're not selling our soul. But sometimes it's just a strictly money play. Or sometimes it's like, we're not going to make money. In fact, we're probably going to lose money on this thing, but it's going to be able to put us into other spaces and have different conversations. So I think from a balance standpoint for the business, you just got to ask yourself those questions. And then from a personal standpoint, routine is everything, routine, routine, routine. And then knowing when you've had enough, after a certain point, I stopped working during the day. On the weekends, I try to fall back and not do as much. But we're always on when you're in this business. It is a lifestyle. And so you just have to find what works for you.
Dope.
Thank you.
All right, so I want to open it up for questions from the audience. No matter what platform you're on, whether it's Twitch, Facebook, YouTube, just type your questions in the chat. We'll try to get to them. We'll try to get to as many as we can. I know that there was a comment before the creators program. That's for women only?
Yes. So
You didn't
sorry
mention
about
that.
that. I saw those in the comments. Yeah, it is for women only. This is just the first iteration of the program. There's another one coming that'll be opened up for everyone, but this is for those that identify as female.
So don't cry. Basically, is what he said. But for people that offer these opportunities, number one is dope, but two, for just follow them, because there's probably going to be other opportunities in the future, like he just said. So follow Raedio on Twitter, Raedio, and follow Noni as well, Noni Biz. I'll put that. Let me put your Twitter in the chat as well.
Yeah, Twitter and Instagram. Yeah,
same thing, right?
same thing. Yep.
Boom.
But yeah, though these opportunities, there's a lot of companies that are offering these or want to offer these opportunities, but they need an outlet to provide it. So this is something that Google wanted to do, and we were like, oh, we'll help you facilitate it. We have access to an audience that you're looking for, and so we're able to do it. Another thing too is I don't like to do transactional things where it's like a one-time transaction. Sometimes it's a one-time transaction, but I try to stay away from that. So um, one of those things that we try to do is like, okay, if we do one deal with a company, we try to set it up to where we can do a part two or part three or part four, because that's how you keep your business going. A lot of times, a lot of people, especially in entertainment, like to go do one deal for a check, and then they get that check, they do the thing, they spend the money, and then they have to go back to the drawing board. For me, I'm always trying to think about how can we continue to go get that same check and increase it each time, and how can we do residual things where we're making money in our sleep. And I think a lot of artists and producers and just anyone who's dedicating their craft to something, you should be thinking about, okay, what could I do to bring in money on my own? Because a lot of people think that signing the major label deals, the end all be all. There's so many other things that you could be doing to bring in money to increase your audience, etc., that you should be thinking about.
And if you get one opportunity, how you make a part two, part three, part four, part five? Over deliver. That's how you do it. That's
exactly.
Go back to the key word of the day or the year. All right, we got a question. Let's see. 305 Vibes MF. Hey, thanks for the game. What would you say is the most important aspect in working with a new artist just releasing their first single?
The plan, I think that you could put out that first single and maybe it doesn't hit in the way that you thought. So what is your follow-up plan? Is there more content coming? Is there another single that's coming? What is the full plan? A lot of times, like from an audience perspective, you should be telling the audience, like, this is the one, this is the one, this is the one. But once you put out the one, if it doesn't go in the way that you planned, then what is your plan B? And also, if it does go the way that you planned, or maybe even bigger than what you planned, what is your plan B? We've all seen plenty of cases of, songs going out and there's no follow-up, whether it's good or bad. So always be thinking about the follow-up.
Dope. How often do you get involved in like that level of combo anymore, like with the artists? Are you having those discussions, or are you?
Yeah, 1000%. So I got bags under my eyes. I'm involved in every part of the business. Thankfully, now that we have people on the team, I'm able to be one layer removed, but I'm involved every step of the way. Like my team sends me weekly reports of every division. This is what we're doing on music supervision. This is what we're doing on library side. This is what we're doing on label side. I'm involved every step of the way because, a lot of times what you find is if you have a team, sometimes they may be focused on their one thing. And for me, I see the entire business. So a decision that you're making over here could affect a part of the business that you're not even thinking about. So I try to be as involved as possible. I'm not a micromanager at all. I trust my team, and I trust the training that I've given my team so that they would make the right decisions, or the decisions that I think that they should make. But also, you got to be willing to like let people operate and bring their skill sets to the table. That's the only way that you win, because there's parts of Raedio that are winning that I didn't directly do, but I set the foundation, right? I allowed that person to bring their creativity, to bring their thought process, to bring their experience, and then they took something that was a foundation of an idea and they put their sauce on it, and that thing grew. So you gotta be open and you gotta listen to feedback and trust your team.
Right. Is there anything that you haven't done yet that you want to inch over into, or is it just about growing out, the existing infrastructure and businesses?
Yeah, I think right now we're really just heads down being the best. We want to be the best label, we want to be the best publishing company, music supervision, etc. So right now we're just focused on optimizing and being the best at what we're currently doing. Um, the one thing that I want to do, the pie in the sky goal, is I want to like launch a series of e-learning courses. So I want to teach people how to be a music supervisor, how to be an AMR, how to be a music executive, etc. So that's something that that's a personal passion project within the business of radio. So that's something that I'm working on. And then outside of radio, I've been really thinking about just this label services component, how to create the best label services company that ever existed. So these are things swirling around, and when I get to them, who knows? But always thinking about what's next. NFTs, I know that's like a hot button topic that everybody wants to talk about. So I'm, thinking about that. We may not do it. We may. I don't know, but at least I'm educated on it.
Yeah, we just had a really good conversation with Latasha, who's well versed in the space and seems to be doing quite well. She's actually
Natasha's killing it.
Yeah, she's in. Oh, so have you had a conversation with her, or just familiar?
Yeah, I had a conversation with her, and then we worked with her on a project. We did a campaign with Synchrony Bank where they basically funded a mixtape of ours called the Bankroll EP, and Latasha was one of the artists on it. And I didn't know she was involved in NFTs like that, but I definitely have had conversations with her. She's on it for sure.
Dope. Yeah, we literally just, for the people watching, we literally just dropped the episode today. So make sure you check it out. It's on Spotify, Apple, everything. So check it out. All right, looks like we may have time for one, possibly two more questions. Let me see. She said, crazy good insight, y'all. Thank you so much. I'm currently studying music business at Full Sail University. Is Raedio accepting intern resumes?
We're trying to figure that out, honestly. We don't have a full internship program at the moment, but we are trying to figure that out. So just keep following the radio, and we'll let you know.
Dope. Cool. I didn't read this. I didn't vet this one. It's long as shit, but let me see. Hey, first time on the stream. Appreciate the insight. Is there any entry level you are looking for submissions in terms of traction, momentum, brand establishment, etc.? I'm a women producer and an artist building my rollout for my debut project and want to try to get as many ears as possible, but I'm afraid of the work or to follow up the project with more music right after if it isn't received as well as I'd like. Any additional advice for this position?
Yeah.
I have some advice for questions. Shorten them in the future.
Definitely shorten for sure. But I feel like there's a lot of different questions here, but I'll say this. So for radio, there's not a level that we're looking for. It goes back to what I mentioned before. It's talent, number one. What's the artist mindset and what's their team? From there, we'll be interested in working with anybody. But I would say continue to roll out your project, and again, don't think that a label or a distribution company or somebody wanting to sign you in any capacity is the end all be all. There's so much stuff that you could be doing on your own accord before you even get to that point. And I guarantee you, when you get to the point where you're starting to build steam in some way or some fashion, they will find you. I guarantee you. I have yet to reach out to an artist that is popping, that's independent, that they're like, oh, I don't have 4 or 5 other meetings like this. I have yet to do it. Like all the label people, all the people that have the power to sign you, they know about you. So just keep building your craft.
So and here's my advice to folks that are watching this conversation, because I know that we sometimes have guests on here, and obviously everybody wants to work with our guests, but you got to slow down. Obviously, there's a lot of things that Benoni is working on. I would really take the time to just follow him, follow the radio, follow everything that Issa Rae Productions is doing, follow the whole ecosystem, and just learn, take in, and then kind of wait for your moment where you really feel like you have something of value to reach out, right? Because the tendency is to hear this conversation and be like, oh, I got to send him my demo. Oh, I got to send. It's like, hold on, take a step back and really get an understanding of what his world looks like, right? All the different projects he has going on, the 5 different parts of just the audio content company, right? Because you just wanted to when you do get an opportunity, maybe you do get his attention at some point, but when you get his attention, you want to make sure you have something of value to put on the table so that you can continue that conversation. So maybe it's now, probably not, but maybe it's now, but maybe it's 6 months, maybe it's 2 years. You don't know, but you just want to, you know, put your best foot forward when you do get an opportunity, and don't be so rushed to just, you know, get your stuff in front of them right now. So that's my advice to you guys. Go
Just
ahead.
one thing to add to that, Dave. I hope that y'all hear what Dave is saying, because I always tell people, like, you don't have to hit a home run when you first meet somebody. Like, it's okay to build a relationship. I'm living proof on this situation right now. Like, I met Dame. Like, I would have loved to work for Funk Volume at the time that I met Dame. You know, and you know, Dame was cooking up, and I still had to get my weight up, and I got my weight up, and now look at me. Dame is interviewing me. You know what I mean?
Now I'm trying to get a job. See, now I'm trying to get a job.
Yeah, so it's just, you know, you got to have that patience, and you got to cook up. And me, myself personally, I don't spend a lot of my time, and this is not me speaking from a high level. I'm talking about 10 years ago. I don't spend a lot of my time asking people for stuff. I'm going to do what I can control, and I'm going to outwork everybody. I'm going to read everything. I'm going to be talking to the people that I need to talk to. I didn't spend a lot of my time asking people for stuff. For better or for worse, that's just always how I've been. Even to this day, I still cook. And I'm like, y'all gonna see it and y'all gonna jump on board or you're not, but I'm still gonna keep moving. So that's just something to think about.
Indeed, indeed. Aaron, any last thoughts before we get up out of here?
This is a great conversation. Super great to meet you. Thank you so much for your insight.
No, thank you, Aaron. Appreciate it.
Yes. And again, follow Noni. It's right there on the screen at Noni Biz. It's on Twitter. It's on Instagram. But I appreciate you joining. Again, I've seen tremendous growth. Just hearing you talk. I mean, you were always well spoken and you had great ideas, but just, you know, how you've applied that to you know, the radio. It's just amazing. And I know that you're gonna continue to kill it. So good luck, man. Not that you need it, but continue to kill it over there.
I'll take all I can get. Thank you, Dane. I appreciate the invite. Music Entrepreneur Club, y'all are killing it as well. So stay locked in.
Appreciate it. I hope everybody enjoyed today's session. Payne will be live on Thursday. I never know who his guest is, and I apologize to Payne for that. I probably should know so I could plug him, but it's going to be a dope session. And then I think we'll be back next week with an artist named Stocks, who is killing it in the NFT space as well. So we're going to keep bringing you legit information so that you guys can understand how to kind of inch over into the Web3 world. But check out the podcast that we dropped today, because there was a lot of that in that conversation. So until next week, I'll see y'all. All right. Peace. Benoni, I'll be in touch, man.
All right. Thanks, everyone.